Chapter 446 Exterminate the Raging Bull. Answer Yuao. When Huo Yuao was fleeing earlier, he wasn't struck by the attacks of the long-range soul tools that were installed in the Mingdao mountain range. The main reason was that they couldn't accurately determine his position. Otherwise, the Mad Bull Douluo wouldn't have intervened. Currently, the furthest attack could only reach 30 kilometers. Of course, this wasn't considering stationary soul cannon shells. If there were stationary soul cannon shells, a further range could be achieved. However, soul tools must be able to lock onto the enemy first. The aerial surveillance soul tools were kept close to the Mingdao mountain range as the Dalu Empire's troops inched closer and closer, minimizing losses and damages. This was why their control at further ranges wasn't sufficient. When Huo Yuao came up with his plan, he had already considered everything. This was why he was reinforced by Shu Sanqi at the extreme boundary of the effective range of their ultra-long-range soul tools. Even if the ultra-long-range soul tools could react in time and fire attacks at them, they would have enough time to escape as the cannon shells traveled towards them. The others were also naturally reinforcing him outside the boundaries of the effective range of the ultra-long-range soul tools. So what if there was a title Douluo? They were 8 against 1. Huo Yuao wasn't afraid at all. From the distance, streaks of dark blue light were also flying towards them at rapid speed. The evil tyrant Soul Engineer Legion's dagger section had already reorganized itself. However, both Wang Yiheng and the Soul Engineers from this dagger section had to keep one thing in mind. They were closer to the Daluo Empire's base than the Mingdao mountain range right now. This meant that the Daluo Empire's reinforcements might appear at any time. They might even be lying in ambush. A ball of blue light was flung into the air by Wang Yiheng. It transformed into an eyeball-shaped blue light. When the dagger section saw this ball of blue light, they quickly stopped before turning around and retreating. They were rushing back in the direction of the Mingdao mountain range. Fled. Seeing that the dagger section had escaped, Huo Yuao didn't lower his guard at all. Instead, he became tenser. His spiritual detection immediately engulfed all his comrades. At the same time, he quickly drifted forward in front of everyone. Shu Sanqi followed beside him, and the rest rapidly adjusted their formation under his command. Huo Yuao was the furthest forward of the 8. Shu Sanqi and Zhang Nanan were to his left and right respectively. Tang Wutong was behind him, while Ji Juikan and Jing Zian were to her sides. Yi Guyi and Nan Qikai were further back. The 8 of them circulated their soul power at the same time. The Mad Bull Douluo appeared very indifferent. His Empyrean blaze circulated around his body and took a stereoscopic form. He had turned into a huge bull and raging flames were burning, causing the entire sky to be illuminated fiery red. He couldn't advance further. Otherwise, he might not make it back. Wang Yiheng had already decided that this was going to be his last attack. No matter whether or not he could kill his enemies, he wasn't going to remain, and would immediately return to the Mingdao mountain range after this. In the distance, 7 to 8 projections rose from the Daluo Empire's base. From the speed of their ascension and the lights, it was evident that these people were very strong. One strike. He only had the strength for one strike. The Mad Bull Douluo's 7th black soul ring shone brightly. In the next instant, he had already turned into a mad bull. His Empyrean blaze was still attached to him, causing him to look like a huge bull that was more than 30 meters tall. He instantly charged towards Huo Yuao and the rest. The first from Shrek Academy to strike was Yi Guyi. Her 5th and 6th soul rings lit up at the same time. Behind her, 4 wings shone brightly. Right now, she truly resembled an angel. Her slender figure moved rhythmically in the air, and her huge holy sword turned into glaring lights that instantly detached from her hand and slashed towards the charging bull. Her 5th soul skill, holy sword, and her 6th soul skill, angelic dance. Nan Qikai made her move at almost the same time. The 2 of them coordinated perfectly with each other. Nan Qikai's 5th and 6th soul rings also lit up. A long, pink sword shot into the sky and attached itself to the holy sword. Compared to the holy sword, it wasn't very eye-catching. However, when it left Nan Qikai's grasp, the pinkish light that it exuded rapidly intensified. The sword was a pink crystal-like entity that exuded mesmerizing yet blurry pinkish lights under the illumination of the holy sword's golden light. Nan Qikai clasped her hands in front of her. She wore a serious expression on her face as she pushed her hands forward. A spot of pinkish crystal that was the size of a fingernail flew out. When it flew out, Nan Qikai's aura seemed to weaken a little. It was her 5th soul skill, Ruby Annihilation Sword, and her 6th soul, Star of Annihilation. The 2 sword lights combined and instantly landed on the bull's body. Clang! The holy sword was instantly crushed and turned into countless streaks of golden lights that dissipated. Following this, the Ruby Annihilation Sword was also crushed. However, the combination of these 2 swords still managed to weaken the flames on the Mad Bull Douluo's body. After this, the Star of Annihilation arrived. The immense power of annihilation was demonstrated at this moment. The Star of Annihilation, that appeared to only be the size of a fingernail, caused bright, pink light to be released as it touched the flames. It imprinted itself on the Mad Bull Douluo's forehead. It was as if a piece of crystal had grown on the Mad Bull Douluo's head. The pinkish lights continued to grow stronger and stronger. The size of the Star of Annihilation also rapidly grew. During this process of enlargement, it absorbed the flames. The burning flames were completely ineffective against the power of annihilation. This was Wang Yiheng was also shocked. It was his first time witnessing the strength of annihilation too. The strength of a mere soul emperor was actually able to weaken his Empyrean blaze and grow at the same time. How was this possible? The Star of Annihilation was Nan Qikai's 6th soul skill. It was also her strongest soul skill right now. However, it was different from the 6th soul skills of ordinary soul masters. Nan Qikai would drain more than 30% of her soul power to unleash her Star of Annihilation once. She even used up 50% of her soul power to unleash this particular strike. The best way to deal with the Star of Annihilation was to avoid it completely. Although it was very strong, there was one problem with it. It was that it couldn't lock onto its opponents. It could only fly forward. However, the Empyrean blazing bull was too huge. Furthermore, Wang Yiheng was a very conceited person. He had no intention of avoiding the strike. Because of this, he was directly struck. The effect of the Star of Annihilation was that it turned the enemy's strength into its own strength. When it devoured so much strength such that it reached its limit, it would boom. A major explosion ensued. The Empyrean blazing ball was rooted to his position before the flames around his body started to intensify. However, he was just releasing flames from his body. To overcome the Star of Annihilation, Wang Yiheng had no other choice. He could only increase the output of his soul power. Just as he had predicted, the Star of Annihilation could be filled until it was on the verge of bursting even though it was very difficult to get rid of. However, the amount of power released by the Star of Annihilation was extremely great if it were to blow apart. Nan Qikai's abilities weren't exceptional. However, her Star of Annihilation absorbed the strength of the Mad Bull Douluo. Given this, the Mad Bull Douluo would suffer greatly if it blew apart. The flames that the Mad Bull Douluo released would also weaken significantly. After the 2 ladies completed their attacks in the air, a sonorous dragon roar sounded. The dragon god's slaughter dance rose into the air once again, fluttering its dazzling, purple butterfly wings. It charged towards the Empyrean blazing bull. Huo Yuao chose this timing. It was exactly when the Star of Annihilation had blown apart, and the Mad Bull Douluo's reaction was slightly delayed. The dragon god's slaughter dance formed shadows and collided strongly against the Mad Bull Douluo. Not only this, but a ball of dark purplish haze was following the dragon god's slaughter dance. This was Jing Zian's 6th soul skill, Mist Powder. The effect of her Mist Powder was very similar to the Star of Annihilation. When unleashed, the amount of soul power it drained was according to the intention of the soul master who unleashed it. The difference was that Jing Zian's Mist Powder was more thorough than the Star of Annihilation. Because of the power of annihilation, Nan Qikai could only use 50% of her soul power to unleash her Star of Annihilation. However, Jing Zian could use up to 80% of her soul power on her Mist Powder. At such a time, why would Jing Zian conserve her power at all? When the dragon god's slaughter dance struck the Mad Bull, the purple lights had already turned golden. The sky cracked open, and countless streaks of golden light descended from the sky. They were like bolts of golden lightning that struck the Empyrean blazing bull's body. Every attack that landed made the bull weaker. The continuous attacks also caused the Empyrean blazing bull to advance at a slow pace. This was Wang Yiheng wasn't the only one who was stunned. Everyone from Shrek Academy was astonished by what they saw. Tang Wutong had actually conserved some of her power as she unleashed her dragon god's slaughter dance earlier, but she was demonstrating its true power now. It seemed like even a soul sage wouldn't be capable of such a strike. It had to be at the level of a soul Douluo. After all, Wang Yiheng was a soul engineer. He was a class 9 soul engineer. He didn't have a great advantage in terms of his martial soul. This was why he resisted this series of attack using his Empyrean blaze. Angelic dance, holy sword, Ruby Annihilation sword, Star of Annihilation and the fully unleashed dragon god's slaughter dance greatly suppressed him. In the next instant, his huge body had already been engulfed by a ball of mist. The explosion of Jing Zian's mist powder led to pyrolysis. Pyrolysis occurred from within, generating immense splitting characteristics. The mist fused and engulfed the Mad Bull Douluo before splitting. The purplish mist instantly turned fiery red in the next instant before before it dissipated. However, everyone could sense that a great amount of Wang Yiheng's soul power was robbed during this process of dissipation. A bright ball of golden light shone on Huo Yuao's left. A black swanwu was glowing with golden light. It was the fusion of the golden tortoise, the swanwu true body. The viscous dark gold light surged towards the Empyrean blazing ball that was getting closer and closer. This caused the ball to slow down considerably. It was the swanwu's domain. It was the swanwu's domain that had fused with the golden tortoise. Water curbs fire. A swanwu was a godly beast that possessed both the water and earth elements. Along with the enhancements that a golden tortoise brought to a swanwu, this swanwu's domain was far stronger than when Shu Sanchi unleashed it before. The bright golden light transformed into a shooting star that shone extremely brightly in the swanwu domain. Boom. Shu Sanchi, who had turned into a swanwu, quickly summoned his turtle god strike. Swanwu true body, swanwu's domain and turtle god strike. They were Shu Sanchi's 7th, 6th and 5th soul skills respectively. Shu Sanchi unleashed his full strength as he unleashed all three of them at the same time. The heavy collision caused more than 50 Empyrean pearls in front of the Empyrean blazing ball to be crushed. But Shu Sanchi's golden swanwu was also flung backward, causing his swanwu's domain to dissipate. This was the difference between their abilities. If Shu Sanchi were also a titled Douluo, he would have been able to destroy Wang Yiheng with this attack. A huge pink python started to pester and wrap itself around the Empyrean blazing ball just as he stopped after colliding with Shu Sanchi. It was so huge that it didn't pale in comparison to the ball. As it wrapped itself around the ball, it managed to lock it tightly in the air. Soft bone lock. This was obviously Zhang Nanen's 5th soul skill, soft bone lock. Furthermore, the huge python was still releasing glaring, golden light. Invincible golden body. Zhang Nanen had actually unleashed two godly skills using her ruby soft tendon python, soft bone lock and invincible golden body. Huo Yuao, who had been calmly drifting in the air while commanding his comrades all this while, finally made his move. 2 rows of nozzles appeared behind his solo battle armor. These nozzles were located at the center of the 3 wings of his flying type soul tool, just to the sides of his backbone. There were 18 of them. These 18 nozzles instantly released bright light. Behind Huo Yuao, Tang Wutong had already flown up. She avoided these lights, whereas Huo Yuao was like a shooting star as he charged towards Wang Yiheng. In the air, his entire aura completely changed. The look in his eyes was both deep and gentle, as if he was filled with boundless yearning. The intense emotions he was experiencing could even be felt by the rest of his comrades around him. A projection slowly formed behind him. This figure had ravishing looks and a slender figure. There was even a gentle smiling intent and a boundless look of longing on the face of this figure. Wasn't she Wang Donga? Right now, Tang Wutong had just risen high up in the air, and saw everything clearly. When she saw Wang Donga's projection slowly forming behind Huo Yuao, she could sense the boundless yearning that filled Huo Yuao, and the rich emotions that he was experiencing. She was completely stunned. An indescribable sense of pain instantly coursed through her entire body. She became a little dazed as she drifted in the air. Howdong calm, a calm that lasted eternally. Without using any soul skill or element, Huo Yuao could only think of his Howdong calm right now. His 3 energies and inner emotions were fused together to form a self-invented soul skill. The 3 ultimate Howdong skills were undoubtedly the greatest skills that Huo Yuao could unleash right now. On his forehead, his eye of destiny had long since opened. His 6th soul ring shone. His destiny's demise that came from Wang Qiu tore apart all material defenses and bore down on the Empyrean blazing ball. More accurately speaking, there was only a mad ball right now. This was because the Empyrean pearls had been crushed earlier, and were yet to be replenished. Huo Yuao was too quick. His instantaneous charge even caused a sonic boom. This was different from instant teleportation. Instant teleportation only enabled one to disappear and reappear in space. There wasn't any momentum to it. However, Huo Yuao's charge was part of his fighting strength. His bright golden palm carried a boundless sense of yearning and longing as it struck the Empyrean blazing ball's forehead. The massive ball paused for a moment. Following this, a layer of bright red light was unleashed from its body. The red light appeared very quickly, but also dissipated very quickly. The moment it appeared, it was as if an eggshell had engulfed the ball. However, this eggshell was crushed as quickly as it had appeared, and Huo Yuao's palm still managed to strike the mad bull's skull. A groan ensued, and all the flames on the Empyrean blazing ball's body dispersed, revealing the original form of the Empyreal pearls. However, the flames were soon drawn back. Even so, that split second that they had dispersed still caused more than half of them to dissipate. Among humans, Huo Yuao was still considered rather large. However, he was much smaller compared to the Empyrean blazing ball. Yet, he still managed to forcibly stop Wang Yiheng's advance just like that. Huo Yuao's eyes had already turned into 2 pupils. There weren't any enemies in his eyes anymore. There were only countless projections of Wang Donga floating in his eyes. He gave his all in this strike, venting his frustration and disappointment after he found out that Tang Wutong wasn't Wang Donga. This strike was the greatest strike that he had ever unleashed. He was deflected back. A streak of golden light instantly shone from his eye of destiny. The glaring, golden light landed on the head of the Empyrean blazing ball. It was very thin, but more than half of it managed to pierce through the bull's head. Destiny's adjudication, golden dragon pike. At the same time, a trace of dark intent started to silently swell up. From the sky, golden lightning struck. There was a guy who was holding his sword with both his hands, whose sword was pointing downward. The sword fanatic, who had yet to make a move, finally unleashed his strongest strike. Wang Yiheng had never expected these young soul sages to be so difficult to deal with. When he was pestered by the huge python earlier, he had immediately unleashed his full strength to break free. However, there seemed to be a layer of something which resembled an invincible barrier on the python which blocked off his attack. Before he could unleash his second attack, Huo Yuao had already attacked him. The protective barrier that protected him was a blood Empyrean barrier, a passive, defensive type soul tool that he had personally invented. When his enemy's attack might threaten his life, it would be immediately activated on its own. Did my barrier malfunction? It's only the attack of a soul sage. Furthermore, he's only using his palm. How can he possibly threaten my life? However, his barrier revealed the answer in the next moment. This was because it was crushed. It had always been the case that defensive type soul tools were more difficult to create than offensive type soul tools. This was because attacks could be as devastating and chaotic as possible, while a strong defense required proper materials and techniques to achieve. It was even more difficult for passive defensive type soul tools. This was why his blood Empyrean barrier wasn't a class 9 soul tool, but a class 8 soul tool. A class 8 defensive type soul tool had been crushed by a palm just like that. How powerful was it? Furthermore, its strength didn't fall after destroying the barrier. It still continued to strike the Empyrean blazing ball. At that instant, Wang Yiheng only felt that his spiritual sea had cracked. Countless illusions surfaced in his head. There were friends he once had when he was young, his ex-lovers and his elders. A sense of yearning immediately flooded his brain. The remaining strength of the Howdong palm wasn't very much. However, under the effect of Huo Yuao's destiny demise, Wang Yiheng's skull was struck loose. More importantly, he couldn't control his body after he was struck by the Howdong palm. This was the truly terrifying part. As a class 9 soul engineer entitled Douluo, Wang Yiheng's willpower was undoubtedly very strong. He struggled to break free from such a state. However, the spiritual power that fused into his head didn't just cause pure destruction. It was more like a trigger. It triggered the deepest yearnings in his mind. A person would definitely have something or someone that he missed. Even Ji Jukin wasn't an exception. When Huo Yuao's golden dragon pike stabbed into the Empyreal blazing ball's head, the terrifying spiritual power instantly surged into Huo Yuao's body and replenished his drained soul power. Whereas Wang Yiheng's body was shaking tremendously. He felt that his life was in danger. No. I don't want to die. Wang Yiheng was screaming in his heart and wanted to break free from such a state. However, he was a soul engineer. Given his spiritual cultivation, he couldn't possibly compare to a rank 90 soul master. At this moment, how could he possibly quickly break free even as he tried his best? He was even surrounded by the massive ruby soft tendon python. Puff. When darkness descends, the light delivers judgment. The judgment sword fell from the sky as it carried the sword fanatic's soul intent. Destiny's demise reduced all physical barriers to nothing. Furthermore, the golden dragon pike had already wounded the mad bull Douluo. How could he possibly resist another attack? The black and white sword stabbed all the way through into the bull's head. It went completely through the bull's skull. Even though it was only a bull, it was still a martial soul true body formed by a soul master. This wasn't any different from stabbing Wang Yiheng's true forehead. No, how is this possible? How can I possibly die by the hands of such weak beings? Wang Yiheng was indignant. He shouted with all his might and summoned his terrifying soul power once again. The Judgment Sword and Golden Dragon Pike were both flung away by this destructive intent. Huo Yuao and Ji Juigan suffered the same fate too. The ruby soft-tendon python also turned illusory and returned to Jiang Nanan's body. Sparks flashed in the air. Empyrean pearls fell uncontrollably from the sky. The mad bull Douluo had already turned into a human once again. However, his forehead had been badly wounded. He shouted furiously and kept on struggling. His soul power kept on seeping out, but it couldn't change the fact that he had been fatally wounded. The life energy of a tidal Douluo was extremely terrifying, even after suffering such a fatal injury, which was a result of the devouring power of the Golden Dragon Spear and the judgment of the Judgment Sword. Wang Yiheng was still alive. Huo Yuao had already regained a streak of his consciousness when the mad bull Douluo had completely unleashed his strength. He blocked Ji Juigan, even though the two of them were flung away. Huo Yuao took close to 90% of the impact. His solo battle armor played a crucial role at this moment. It was impossible for him to block the all-out attack of a tidal Douluo, but Wang Yiheng was unable to attack given the state he was in. He could only release whatever external strength he had. Huo Yuao spat out a mouthful of blood, but he wasn't too seriously injured. Ji Juigan grabbed hold of him in the air. He didn't thank Huo Yuao, but only patted his shoulder. Everyone from Shrek was scattered in the air right now. They watched as Wang Yiheng put up his final struggle. Right now, reinforcements from the Douluo Empire had already arrived. The White Tiger Duke was personally here. There were also other tidal Douluo from their respective Soul Engineer legions. The Douluo Empire had too much information about Wang Yiheng, the leader of the evil tyrant Soul Engineer Legion. However, they still felt a little unbelieving that Wang Yiheng had been subjected to such fatal injuries right now. He was the leader of the evil tyrant Soul Engineer Legion. He was actually surrounded and attacked by 8 Soul Sages from Shrek Academy. These tidal Douluo were confident of taking Wang Yiheng on in a close combat fight. However, they also couldn't deny that the survivability of a Soul Engineer of the same tier was stronger. Would Wang Yiheng have a lack of powerful soul tools on him? His Empyrean Blaze combined defense and defense. Furthermore, he had great control over his Empyrean Blaze. However, Wang Yiheng's struggle lasted for a few minutes in the air before he finally dropped indignantly from the sky. Shu Sanqi was already back to his original form. He lifted his golden Swanwu shield, and his fourth soul ring flashed before he managed to drag Wang Yiheng's corpse over. How precious was the corpse of a Class 9 Soul Engineer? No one knew. This was because there had never been a situation in the Sun Moon Empire's history that the corpse of a Class 9 Soul Engineer had landed in an enemy's hands. Wang Yiheng was the first. Jiang Nanan was a little worried as she looked at Huo Yuao. Right now, Huo Yuao had already regained his awareness even though he was still bugged by the side effects of his Haodong Palm. He gently nodded to confirm that Wang Yiheng was already dead through his spiritual detection. Great. Nan Qiupai cheered and hugged Yi Gi, who was beside her. Yi Gi's body suddenly became a little unstable. She almost couldn't control her flying type soul tool. Even though she could use her wings to fly, it was very draining on her soul power. Most of the time, she would use her flying type soul tool. Jingxian also wore a smile on her face. Ji Juigan looked as indifferent as ever, as if the last strike had nothing to do with him. Tang Wutong calmly opened her dragon wings and drifted closer to Huo Yuao. She didn't seem to be affected by Wang Yiheng's death. Right now, all of her attention was drawn to Huo Yuao. Her gaze was focused, but no one could guess what she was thinking. The White Tiger Duke led the other tidal Douluo as they came over. They first came beside Shu Sanqi and seriously checked Wang Yiheng's condition. A tidal Douluo who appeared to be in his 60s nodded before saying, "Yes, it's Wang Yiheng, the leader of the evil tyrant Soul Engineer Legion." A look of delighted surprise soon appeared on the faces of the other tidal Douluo. This was probably the best outcome that the Douluo Empire had achieved since the war had started. Even though the Empire wasn't really responsible for killing Wang Yiheng, such a result was good enough to boost the morale of the troops. It was a morale booster for all the deflated Soul Engineers who had witnessed the deaths of more than 2,000 Soul Masters the last time around. The White Tiger Duke came beside Huo Yuao and was a little perplexed as he looked at him. Huo Yuao, you should have left it to us this time. Huo Yuao twisted his head to look at him, but didn't say anything. There was an indifferent look in his eyes. He even appeared to be cold. Such an expression left the White Tiger Duke a little stunned. He couldn't understand it. Furthermore, he also seemed to have seen something familiar in Huo Yuao's eyes. However, Huo Yuao quickly shifted his gaze away immediately after their eyes met, and stopped looking at the White Tiger Duke. What was going on? Huo Yuao had unleashed his Haodong Palm, which was filled with his yearning for Wang Donga and his mother. At such a time, he was prone to losing control of his focus. In addition, Dai Hao was beside him. How could he possibly control his emotions? Jiang Nanan flew to Huo Yuao's side and apologetically said to the White Tiger Duke, "I'm sorry, Duke. Huo Yuao unleashed his self-invented soul steel earlier and drained too much of his spiritual power. That has affected his emotions, and he's still suffering the side effects of it. Please let him recover first. He's not in his normal emotional state right now." The White Tiger Duke was only enlightened at this point, and nodded gently. He replied, "All right, let's return first." Under the protection of the bunch of tidal Douluo, everyone turned around and proceeded in the direction of the Northwestern Field Army's base. Very soon, they arrived back at their base. After landing, Huo Yuao had already recovered significantly. He turned to Shu Sanqi and said, "Third Senior, hand the corpse over to the Duke, but grab his things first." He wouldn't be so foolishly generous. Everyone clearly knew that the accessories of a Class 9 Soul Engineer were very valuable. Wang Yiheng's most valuable possession was undoubtedly his Empyrean Blaze. Earlier, all the pearls had fallen off. With Huo Yuao's spiritual senses, he informed Nan Qiupai and Yi Gi of their rough locations before they went to retrieve them. It was impossible for them to give up possession of these pearls. As for what the mad bull Douluo had on him earlier, no one knew. However, there would be a reward for Huo Yuao and the rest. The White Tiger Duke had mentioned before that they could keep whatever they retrieved. If they were willing to sell them to the Douluo Empire, the Empire would buy them at market price. This was also why Huo Yuao didn't ask the White Tiger Duke to coordinate with them earlier. If the Northwestern Field Army's tidal Douluo coordinated and reinforced them earlier, who would be the rightful owner of everything that they obtained from the mad bull Douluo? The few tidal Douluo from the Douluo Empire looked at one another and appeared a little discontented. This was the base of the Northwestern Field Army. However, the White Tiger Duke's expression didn't change. He nodded and said, "Thanks, Yuao. I'll ask someone to record your contributions." Huo Yuao was a little unwilling to look at him right now, and so he didn't. He lifted his right hand, and a streak of blue light shot forward at the empty ground in front of him. Suddenly, a huge soul tool with a diameter of over 2 meters appeared in front of everyone. All the tidal Douluo were surprised. Huo Yuao calmly said, "This is a high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tool that belongs to the Sun Moon Empire. I'm going to give it to the Douluo Empire. I hope that this will expedite the Empire's research on soul tools. I'm sorry, White Tiger Duke. I'm a little tired, and would like to go and rest first." Yuao. The White Tiger Duke was a little agitated when he saw such a huge surveillance soul tool. He actually succeeded, and even killed a tidal Douluo. However, Huo Yuao had turned around and left before he could even express his gratitude. All the tidal Douluo present didn't question Huo Yuao's attitude this time. This was because they were all fixated on the high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tool right now. The value of this item couldn't be measured monetarily. Huo Yuao's act of letting it out appeased them. Shu Sanqi didn't stand on ceremony at all. He took everything that Wang Yiheng possessed and put it away in his own storage-type soul tool. He was going to pass it to Huo Yuao after he fully recovered. Gentle light flashed, and Huo Yuao revealed a mysterious look on his face. He calmly walked towards his tent as he recalled what had happened earlier. He had unleashed his strongest strike earlier. In addition, he seemed to feel that something in his body had made a breakthrough when he unleashed that strike. It was a magical feeling. It was also at that moment that his soul power improved by leaps and bounds. He was walking before he heard a voice echoing from behind. Huo Yuao. Huo Yuao stopped and turned his head. Tang Wutong took 2 quick steps and rushed to his side. As she looked at him, her expression became more and more perplexed. "Can you tell me the name of your palm strike earlier?" Huo Yuao nodded and replied, "The Haodong Palm, a palm that will last eternally. The Haodong Palm, a palm that will last eternally." Tang Wutong recited the words. Huo Yuao didn't stop, and continued walking towards his tent. However, Tang Wutong didn't follow him anymore. Rather, she stood where she was, and was in a little daze as she looked at his back. Haodong Palm, Haodong Palm. How from Huo Yuao and Dong from Wang Donga? The Haodong Palm, a palm that will last eternally. It seems like my impression of him was wrong. Huo Yuao and everyone from Shrek Academy went to rest. On the other side, the commander's tent was very crowded right now. The senior commanders gathered, and none of them had the intention to rest. In the center of the tent, the table had already been moved to one side to be replaced by Wang Yiheng's corpse and the massive high-altitude aerial surveillance soul tool right now. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.